Have you ever found yourself emotionally entangled with someone, knowing deep down that it's time to walk away, yet feeling trapped by the weight of your feelings? Why is it so hard to detach, even when every fiber of your being is telling you that it's time to let go? We live in a world that encourages us to hold on, to believe in the power of change, to keep investing in relationships even when the signs are clear that it's no longer healthy. How often have we heard, "Give them a chance. They'll change if you just wait a little longer." Yet deep down, we know that waiting for change isn't a strategy, it's a trap. You might be here because you're tired of feeling emotionally drained, confused, and stuck in a cycle of attachment that doesn't serve you anymore. It's time to break free. The solution is not more waiting, not more self-doubt, but an intentional, stoic approach to detaching. What if I told you that the key to emotional freedom lies in understanding 6 simple but powerful rules that will help you regain control of your life and reclaim your peace? Imagine what it would feel like to walk away from a situation, not out of bitterness or anger, but with clarity, strength, and peace. You don't have to keep suffering in silence. You can take action today, action that is rooted in self-respect and wisdom, and this action will give you the power to create the life you truly deserve. Are you ready to learn how to emotionally detach with stoicism? Let's dive in. 1. Recognize the reality, not the fantasy. Have you ever been in a situation where you're emotionally invested in someone, and deep down, you know they're not treating you the way you deserve, but you keep holding on? You keep thinking, maybe they'll change, or if I just give them more time, they'll see how much I care. It's a dangerous trap, isn't it? The fantasy that you create in your mind about who they could be, who you want them to be, often feels more real than the person in front of you. But here's the problem. We often fall in love with the idea of someone, not with who they truly are. This is a pattern that many of us follow. We ignore the signs, downplay the red flags, and tell ourselves stories about how things could be different if only we gave them more time, more space, or more love. But the reality is much simpler and much harder to face. The truth is, they have already shown you who they are. It's in their actions, in the choices they make, in the patterns they exhibit. When someone is consistently disrespectful, neglectful, or emotionally unavailable, it's not a phase, it's their baseline behavior. It's easy to convince yourself that things will change, but you're ignoring the truth when you do that. The truth is, you're investing in a fantasy, not in the reality of who they are. So why do we do it? Why do we keep holding on to that illusion, even when deep down we know it's not working? It's a defense mechanism. The fantasy feels safer than the truth. It's much easier to cling to the hope that someone will change than to accept that they might not ever be what we want them to be. This is where we make the mistake. We often refuse to see the truth in front of us because it feels too painful. It feels like we're losing something we've invested so much time and energy into. But here's the harsh reality. What's worse than facing the truth? Staying in a relationship or attachment that isn't serving you, that's holding you back, that's draining your energy, all because you're too afraid to let go of the fantasy. Have you ever found yourself rationalizing someone's poor behavior, convincing yourself that maybe they had a bad day or they're just going through something? This is where the emotional detachment process begins, to truly see people for who they are, not for who you want them to be. In Stoic relationships, this principle is paramount. The Stoics teach us that the only thing we truly have control over is ourselves, our thoughts, our actions, our reactions. We can't control others, and we can't expect them to change to fit the ideal version we've created in our minds. What we can control is how we respond to their behavior. If someone continually shows you who they are through their actions, it's time to recognize the reality of the situation. It's time to stop pretending that they'll magically transform into someone who meets your needs. Instead, you need to ask yourself, am I willing to continue investing my time and energy into someone who doesn't respect or appreciate me for who I am right now? This is not about giving up hope, but about accepting the reality of the situation. It's about acknowledging that you deserve more than someone who doesn't show up consistently, who doesn't value you, and who doesn't treat you with the care and respect you deserve. But how do you know if you're falling into this trap of fantasy versus reality? The answer lies in the consistency of their actions. Look at their patterns. What do they do, not what do they say? Actions speak louder than words, and over time, their behavior will reveal their true intentions and character. If their words don't align with their actions, that's a red flag. If they've repeatedly failed to meet your needs, or if you feel consistently drained, confused, or disrespected, those are signs that you're holding on to a fantasy. You're holding on to the idea of what they could be, instead of accepting who they actually are. This is where emotional detachment begins, in recognizing the truth, even when it's painful. You have to confront the reality of the situation head-on, no matter how much it hurts. The moment you accept the reality, you stop trying to change someone or mold them into something they're not. You start to reclaim your power, your peace, and your clarity. You start to understand that your worth isn't tied to someone else's ability to change or love you the way you want. You don't need to keep waiting for them to show up differently. You can start showing up for yourself, setting boundaries, and focusing on your own growth and happiness. It's not easy. It's painful, and it might feel like you're losing something important, but what you're really losing is the fantasy. The illusion that someone who hasn't treated you well will suddenly start treating you the way you deserve. And what you're gaining is freedom. Freedom from attachment, freedom from emotional dependency, freedom from the idea that you need someone to be different to be worthy of your love and attention. This is the first and most important step in emotional detachment, recognizing the reality of the situation, not the fantasy. Once you do that, the rest of the journey becomes clearer. You start to see where you've been allowing someone's behavior to drain you, and you begin to understand how much power you've been giving away. It's time to stop wasting energy on something that isn't serving you. Instead, channel that energy into something more positive, into yourself. By embracing the reality of who they are, you free yourself to move forward and create a healthier, more fulfilling life. The fantasy you've been holding on to is just that, a fantasy. It's time to let it go. The reality might be painful, but it will also set you free. Embrace the truth and take the first step toward emotional freedom. 2. Set clear boundaries for yourself. One of the most essential yet often overlooked aspects of emotional detachment is setting clear boundaries. It's not always easy, especially when we've been emotionally tied to someone for a long time. But this is an absolute necessity for regaining control over our lives and protecting our peace. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship where you felt drained, frustrated, or undervalued, but had trouble saying no? The truth is, setting boundaries isn't just about saying no to others. It's about saying yes to yourself. It's about recognizing that your emotional health and well-being are non-negotiable. How many times have you tolerated bad behavior because you felt guilty for enforcing your needs or fears of being judged? The reality is, if you don't establish boundaries, you'll never experience true emotional freedom. Without boundaries, we leave ourselves vulnerable to manipulation, emotional abuse, and neglect. The first step in setting boundaries is recognizing what's acceptable and what isn't in any relationship. This process requires self-awareness and a deep understanding of your own needs, desires, and values. Are you willing to let someone else dictate your emotional state? Or are you ready to take control and make sure your peace is never compromised again? In Stoicism, there is a powerful lesson about focusing on what is within our control. Our responses, our actions, our choices, those are ours to decide. When someone continuously violates your boundaries, it's an indication that you're giving away your power. It's time to take it back. But what does setting boundaries actually look like? It means being able to say no without guilt, walking away from situations that no longer serve you, and not feeling the need to explain yourself constantly. Boundaries are not about control. They are about protecting your inner peace and emotional well-being. When you set a boundary, you are essentially saying to the other person, "This is where I stand, and this is where I draw the line." It doesn't have to be confrontational or harsh, but it must be firm and clear. The hardest part is sticking to your boundaries, especially when the other person tries to push or test them. Do you find yourself often bending your boundaries for the sake of avoiding conflict? This is where the real work happens, when you can hold your ground and say, "This is what I will and will not tolerate." Emotional detachment is not possible without boundaries, because without them, you'll find yourself constantly pulled back into unhealthy dynamics. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll just ignore this one time," only for it to snowball into more discomfort, frustration, and hurt? Boundaries are essential because they define your worth and set the standard for how you expect to be treated. By enforcing boundaries, you are demonstrating that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable, and that anyone who wants access to those must show you the respect you deserve. There's a key component of Stoicism that involves the idea of accepting things as they are and responding in ways that maintain your peace. Setting boundaries is not about punishing someone else. It's about respecting yourself enough to say, "I deserve better." If you don't set boundaries, no one else will. Imagine the emotional drain you're putting yourself through by not holding strong boundaries with someone who is not treating you right. What would it feel like to no longer tolerate disrespect or manipulation? How empowering would it be to know that you can choose who gets access to your energy, time, and attention? Boundaries allow you to step out of the toxic cycle of enabling and instead create a space where you are free to make decisions based on what is healthy for you, not based on someone else's emotional needs or manipulations. Setting boundaries is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. When you value yourself enough to define what is acceptable and what isn't, you start taking control of your emotional state and reclaiming your peace. It's not about building walls. It's about creating healthy space where you can thrive emotionally without constantly feeling drained. And here's the truth. Setting boundaries may trigger resistance from others, but that's not your problem. Their reaction to your boundaries is a reflection of their expectations, not your responsibility. You are not here to meet their needs at the expense of your own mental and emotional health. The more you practice setting and maintaining boundaries, the more your relationships will evolve. Some relationships may end because of your boundaries, and while that may hurt at first, it's a necessary part of the process. It's a sign that you're evolving and that you are no longer willing to sacrifice your peace for the sake of someone else's comfort. As you detach emotionally, you'll find that the people who truly value you will respect your boundaries. Boundaries create clarity, not just for you, but for others as well. The clearer you are about what you are and are not willing to tolerate, the less confusion you'll face in your relationships. The more you practice this, the easier it will become to enforce your boundaries without feeling guilty or anxious. Emotional detachment isn't about cutting people out of your life out of anger. It's about protecting yourself from people who would drain your energy and violate your peace. Boundaries are a necessary part of emotional detachment because they allow you to preserve your sense of self-worth. They allow you to choose peace over drama, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over self-sacrifice. Now think about your own life. Where do you need to start setting clearer boundaries? Where are you allowing yourself to be drained emotionally? Do you need to speak up more in your relationships, or perhaps pull back entirely? If this resonates with you, it's time to start creating boundaries that protect your peace and keep you grounded in your own sense of worth. Remember, you are in control of what you allow into your emotional space, and you have every right to create boundaries that keep you emotionally safe. Setting boundaries is a powerful tool for emotional detachment. So, if you're ready to take that next step in reclaiming your peace, start setting boundaries today. Like and comment #1 if you're enjoying this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more insightful content on Stoic relationships and how to master emotional detachment in your life. Boundaries will free you. They will help you. Stand tall and protect your energy. You owe it to yourself to create the space you need to heal, grow, and thrive. The time to start is now. 3. Stop chasing closure. When we're emotionally attached to someone, one of the hardest things to do is stop chasing closure. We convince ourselves that if we just get that final conversation, that last bit of clarity, we'll be able to move on. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that closure is the key to healing. How many times have you caught yourself replaying conversations in your mind, trying to piece together what went wrong, or searching for an explanation that might make it all make sense? You might feel like you need the other person to explain themselves, to apologize, or to provide some sort of validation for the pain you've experienced. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Chasing closure from someone else is a fruitless endeavor. Closure doesn't come from them, it comes from you. You see, when we rely on someone else to provide closure, we are giving them the power to control how we move forward. We are allowing them to dictate when and how we heal. But here's the question. Why would you want to hand over that power to someone who has already shown you that they're not willing or capable of meeting your emotional needs? This is where emotional detachment truly begins. To stop chasing something outside of yourself that was never meant to heal you in the first place. Have you ever waited for an apology, a reason, or some kind of conversation that would magically make everything make sense? How often do we set ourselves up for disappointment, thinking that one more conversation will provide the answers we seek? The truth is, closure is an illusion. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can start the process of moving on with your life. If someone truly cared about you, they would have treated you with respect and communicated openly during the relationship. The fact that you're in a position where you're searching for closure means that something fundamental was already broken in the dynamic. Closure is not something that should be given to you by another person. It is something that you must create for yourself. This is a fundamental shift in thinking that's required for emotional detachment. It's a mindset that says, I no longer need to wait for someone else to give me the answers. I will find my own peace on my own terms. Chasing closure is a way of seeking external validation for your pain, but in reality, no one else can truly fix what's broken inside of you. The power to heal lies within you, and it's your responsibility to reclaim that power. So, how do you stop chasing closure? The first step is acknowledging that you will likely never get the answers you're searching for, and that's okay. Sometimes, not knowing is part of the healing process. It's about learning to sit with the discomfort and accept that some questions will never be answered. The Stoics teach us that our peace does not depend on external circumstances, including the actions or words of others. Instead, we must focus on what is within our control, our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. When we stop chasing closure, we take back control over our own emotional state. Another important aspect of detaching from the need for closure is understanding that no explanation will ever change the past. The person you're seeking closure from has already shown you who they are, and their behavior cannot be undone. No matter how much you analyze or seek validation, it won't alter the reality of the situation. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you can release the emotional weight that's holding you back. Ask yourself, what will closure really give me? Will it truly make me feel better, or will it simply prolong the cycle of dependency and confusion? Will it bring me peace, or will it just reignite old wounds that I should be moving past? The truth is, closure is often just another form of attachment. We want it because we're still emotionally attached to the outcome, to the hope that things could have been different. But the key to emotional detachment is accepting the reality that things are what they are, and we can't change them. We can only change how we respond to them. Letting go of the need for closure means accepting that healing comes from within, not from external validation. When you stop chasing closure, you give yourself permission to move on. You stop waiting for someone else to fix your pain, and instead, you start taking steps to heal on your own. This is where true freedom begins, when you stop relying on someone else's actions or words to dictate how you feel. You begin to understand that your peace is your responsibility, and no one else has the power to take it away unless you let them. It's also important to recognize that closure is often not as satisfying as we think it will be. How many times have we finally had that final conversation and realized that it didn't bring the peace we expected? In fact, it may have only left us feeling more confused, more hurt, or more emotionally drained. Closure is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's not a magical conversation that will instantly make everything make sense. What truly brings peace is the decision to let go, the decision to move forward without needing to rehash the past. This decision is an act of self-care, an act of emotional empowerment. It's a commitment to your own healing, rather than waiting for someone else to give you permission to heal. The moment you stop chasing closure is the moment you start reclaiming your emotional autonomy. You take responsibility for your healing and your peace. This doesn't mean you're giving up on the relationship or the person. It simply means you're no longer waiting for external validation to determine your emotional well-being. In Stoic philosophy, we're reminded that we are the architects of our own emotional states. We are responsible for how we react to situations, and we are responsible for our own healing. When you stop chasing closure, you stop giving away your emotional power to someone else. You no longer need them to explain their actions or provide closure. You are the one who gets to decide when it's time to heal, to move on, and to reclaim your peace. Healing doesn't require closure. It requires acceptance, self-compassion, and the willingness to move forward, even without all the answers. Once you make this decision, you will find that you can move forward with a sense of clarity and emotional freedom. The process of detaching emotionally becomes easier, and you'll begin to understand that your peace is not tied to anyone else's actions, apologies, or explanations. The moment you let go of the need for closure is the moment you set yourself free. It's the moment you decide that you no longer need someone else to fix what's broken inside of you. You are the one who gets to heal, and that's the most powerful closure of all. 4. Accept the pain and let yourself grieve. Grief is an inevitable part of emotional detachment, and one of the hardest aspects of moving on from someone you've been emotionally attached to. It might feel like you're constantly fighting your own feelings, trying to suppress them because you think you should be stronger or over it by now. But here's the truth. Grieving is not a sign of weakness. It's a necessary and powerful part of healing. Have you ever tried to rush through your grief, thinking that if you just ignored the pain, it would go away? We often make the mistake of thinking that we need to quickly get over our emotions, especially after a breakup or a difficult emotional separation. We live in a society that promotes speed, quick fixes, fast results, and instant gratification. But emotional healing doesn't work that way. You cannot bypass grief, you have to go through it. And this is one of the hardest truths to accept. The pain of detaching emotionally can feel overwhelming at times. It can feel like you're losing a piece of yourself, like you're carrying around this heavy weight of sadness that doesn't seem to lift. You might wonder, why does it hurt so much? Why can't I just move on already? The answer is simple. Grief is the process your heart and mind go through to heal, and it's different for everyone. We all grieve differently, and we must allow ourselves the space to experience that grief in our own way. It's important to remember that it's okay to feel pain. It's okay to cry, to feel sadness, to feel like you're not in control. This is a natural human experience, and you're not weak for feeling these emotions. In fact, by allowing yourself to feel the pain, you are giving yourself the opportunity to heal. Denying your emotions or trying to bury them will only prolong the healing process. This is where many people get stuck in the cycle of emotional attachment. They ignore the pain, hoping it will go away on its own. But ignoring the pain doesn't make it disappear. It just gets buried deeper inside, where it lingers and affects other areas of your life. Have you ever tried to push down your feelings only to realize later that they resurface at the most unexpected times? This is why it's so important to allow yourself to grieve fully, without shame or guilt. You deserve to feel your emotions, to process the loss, and to give yourself permission to grieve the end of something that once mattered to you. This doesn't mean that you're weak or that you haven't moved on. It means that you're human. Grief is an essential part of detachment because it allows you to release the emotional attachments that have been holding you back. By grieving, you're giving yourself the opportunity to acknowledge what you've lost, what you've learned, and what you need to let go of. You're not just letting go of a person, you're letting go of the idea of them, of the future you envisioned, and of the attachment that has been built over time. As painful as it is, grief is the emotional release you need to make space for a healthier future. And here's the key. Grief doesn't have a timeline. You can't rush it. Everyone processes pain at their own pace. There's no right or wrong way to grieve, but there is an important practice in allowing the grief to flow without judgment. Have you been trying to move on too quickly, only to find that the emotional weight hasn't lifted? Or perhaps you've been avoiding your feelings altogether, telling yourself that you'll deal with them later. This is the point where true emotional detachment begins, when you allow yourself to feel fully without trying to control or suppress those feelings. In Stoicism, there's an important teaching that emotions are a natural part of being human. But how we react to them is what defines us. The Stoics believed in experiencing emotions with full awareness and acceptance, but they also taught that we shouldn't let them control us. They urged us to acknowledge pain when it arises, but to not allow it to dictate our future actions. This is where emotional detachment can really shift your perspective. You allow yourself to feel the pain, but you don't let it paralyze you. You don't let it define you. And most importantly, you don't let it control your decisions moving forward. The emotional attachment you've experienced is real, and the pain is valid. It's the process of grieving that allows you to regain control of your own emotional state and move forward with clarity and strength. Grief is not the enemy. It's a powerful force that will eventually free you if you allow it to run its course. Have you ever realized how much space grief can take up if you resist it? The more you try to avoid it, the more it grows. But once you give yourself permission to fully experience it, you'll find that it eventually starts to lessen. It doesn't disappear overnight, but with time and acceptance, the pain will gradually ease, and you'll find yourself stronger and more resilient. By grieving, you are honoring yourself, your feelings, and your emotional journey. It's a step in the process of letting go, of releasing the past so you can step into your future with more clarity and self-awareness. Now, here's something crucial to remember. While grieving is necessary, it's also important not to get stuck in it. You shouldn't allow yourself to be consumed by the pain forever. The goal isn't to dwell in sorrow, but to use it as a stepping stone toward healing and emotional freedom. At some point, you have to make the conscious choice to stop living in the past and start creating a new narrative for yourself. You need to acknowledge the loss, feel the pain, but then take the next step: release. Release the attachment, release the emotional weight, and free yourself to move forward. Healing comes from acceptance, and that means accepting the pain as part of the journey, not something to be avoided or suppressed. If you're struggling with grief right now, know that you're not alone, and it's okay to take your time. You don't have to rush your healing. Be kind to yourself, let yourself grieve, but also remember, the pain won't last forever. One day you'll look back and realize how far you've come, and that's when you'll see just how strong you've become through the process. Healing takes time, but with each step forward, you'll find yourself reclaiming your peace. Like and comment number 1 if you're finding this video helpful, and subscribe to our channel for more insights on how to emotionally detach and create the life you deserve. You're not just letting go of someone, you're letting go of the past, so you can create space for the future. Take your time, be patient with yourself, and trust that healing is on its way. 5. Focus on self-care and reconnect with yourself. Emotional detachment is not just about letting go of someone else. It's about rediscovering and reconnecting with yourself. When you're deeply involved in a relationship or an emotional connection, it's easy to lose sight of who you are. Outside of that dynamic, your sense of self-worth, identity, and happiness can become entangled with the other person, making it difficult to find your footing when you begin to detach. Have you ever felt like you were losing yourself in a relationship? Like your happiness, desires, and even your sense of purpose were tied to someone else's needs or approval? This is one of the reasons why emotional detachment is such a powerful process. It forces you to return to yourself. The first step in this process is focusing on self-care. Self-care is not just about pampering yourself, though that's certainly part of it. It's about taking the time to nurture your mind, body, and spirit. It's about reclaiming the love, respect, and attention that you may have been giving to someone else, and redirecting it toward yourself. Why is self-care so crucial when emotionally detaching from someone? Because you cannot truly heal unless you invest in your own well-being. In the rush to make someone else feel loved, valued, and cared for, we often neglect our own emotional and physical needs. This is especially true in relationships where the other person has been emotionally demanding or neglectful. You might have spent so much time and energy trying to fix or save the relationship that you forgot to nurture your own sense of self. Reconnecting with yourself requires a commitment to self-care, practices that restore balance and harmony to your life. This can mean taking time to rest and recharge, focusing on your health through exercise and proper nutrition, engaging in hobbies or activities that bring you joy, and setting aside moments of solitude to reflect and reconnect with your inner self. The goal here is to rebuild your sense of identity. When you detach emotionally from someone, it's easy to feel disoriented or lost, as though you no longer know who you are without them. This feeling of losing yourself is natural, but it's temporary. The truth is, you were always enough. On your own, you don't need someone else to validate your existence or provide your sense of purpose. Once you begin to focus on self-care, you'll start to rediscover the person you were before the relationship or emotional attachment consumed you. You'll begin to realize that your happiness, fulfillment, and sense of worth are not dependent on someone else. This is where the real power of emotional detachment lies. It allows you to shift your focus inward, to rebuild your own identity, and to embrace your true self. In the process, you'll learn that you can be whole and complete without needing anyone else to define you. Part of self-care also means surrounding yourself with people who genuinely support you and add value to your life. When you're emotionally detaching from someone, it's easy to isolate yourself, but isolation can hinder your healing. Instead, reach out to friends, family, or even mentors who can offer love, encouragement, and perspective. Healthy relationships are key to your emotional recovery, as they help reinforce the idea that you deserve to be loved and respected for who you are, not for what you can do for others. These relationships remind you that you don't need to give up yourself in order to make someone else happy. In addition to nurturing your relationships with others, it's equally important to strengthen your relationship with yourself. This involves developing self-compassion, the ability to treat yourself with kindness and understanding during difficult moments. It's about acknowledging your pain and struggles without judgment and recognizing that you are worthy of healing and growth. Self-compassion means giving yourself permission to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to experience pain without berating yourself for it. Often, when we're emotionally entangled with someone, we neglect our own needs and put the needs of the other person first. This self-neglect can take a toll on our mental and emotional health, leading us to feel drained, overwhelmed, or resentful. But by focusing on self-care, we give ourselves permission to prioritize our well-being without guilt. Self-care allows you to regain your emotional energy and to put yourself back at the center of your own life. Have you ever realized how much energy you were giving to someone who wasn't reciprocating that same level of care? How many times have you put their needs before your own, only to find that you were left feeling empty and drained? Emotional detachment requires a conscious shift to stop pouring into someone who isn't fulfilling your emotional needs and to start filling your own cup. One powerful way to reconnect with yourself is by engaging in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. This could be something creative like painting, writing, or dancing, or it could involve exploring new hobbies or interests that you've put aside for a while. What have you always wanted to do but never had the time for? Now is the perfect opportunity to explore those passions and to rediscover the things that light you up from within. This process of reconnecting with your passions helps you rediscover your sense of self and provides a sense of fulfillment that you may have lost during your emotional attachment. As you start to focus on yourself, you'll also begin to set new personal goals. This could involve career aspirations, personal growth, or even emotional healing. What do you want for yourself moving forward? What are your goals and dreams, and how can you start working toward them? The act of setting goals for yourself gives you something to focus on and helps you build a future that is independent of anyone else's presence in your life. This is an essential part of the emotional detachment process. When you are emotionally tied to someone, it's easy to lose sight of your own goals and dreams. But now, as you detach, you have the opportunity to create a life that is centered around your own vision and purpose. Another aspect of reconnecting with yourself is learning to be comfortable with your own company. Have you ever felt uncomfortable being alone with your thoughts? For many people, emotional attachment can create a sense of dependency, where being alone feels like a void that needs to be filled. But learning to embrace solitude is a key part of emotional healing. Being comfortable in your own company is a sign of emotional maturity and self-sufficiency. It shows that you can enjoy your own presence, that you don't need someone else to complete you. This kind of self-reliance is empowering, and it helps you build a foundation of self-worth that isn't dependent on someone else's approval or affection. Reconnecting with yourself also means learning to trust yourself again. When you're emotionally attached to someone, it's easy to doubt your own judgment and decision-making. You may have ignored red flags, let your boundaries slip, or second-guessed your own feelings in the name of love or attachment, now is the time to rebuild that trust in yourself. Trust your instincts, trust your emotions, and trust that you are capable of making the right decisions for yourself. The more you reconnect with your inner wisdom, the stronger you'll become in navigating future relationships and emotional experiences. Self-care isn't just about what you do for yourself physically, it's about nurturing your emotional and mental health. Emotional detachment requires a shift in perspective, and the best way to facilitate that shift is by focusing on self-care. By practicing self-compassion, engaging in activities that bring you joy, setting new goals, and learning to trust yourself again, you are creating a solid foundation for emotional healing. The more you focus on self-care and reconnect with yourself, the less power that past emotional attachment will have over you. You will begin to move forward, not in spite of the pain, but because of it, stronger, wiser, and more connected to your true self. Emotional detachment is not about cutting people off. It's about giving yourself the space to grow, heal, and create a life that is centered around you. By focusing on self-care, you reclaim your power and your peace. So, take a deep breath, give yourself grace, and start the process of reconnecting with the person you were always meant to be. 6. Embrace the freedom of letting go. Letting go is one of the most powerful and freeing actions you can take in the process of emotional detachment. It's not easy, and it's not something you can do overnight. But when you truly embrace the freedom that comes with letting go, you open the door to a whole new chapter in your life. So what does it really mean to let go, and why does it feel so difficult to do? When you're emotionally attached to someone, it's easy to feel like you're bound to them, that your future is somehow tied to their presence, and that without them, something essential will be missing. But here's the reality. Letting go is not about giving up on them or their potential. It's about choosing yourself, your peace, and your future over the unhealthy attachment that's holding you back. Have you ever felt like you were stuck in a cycle of trying to hold on to someone who wasn't meant to be in your life? Maybe you thought that letting go meant you were failing or abandoning them. But in truth, it's about recognizing that clinging to someone who isn't meeting your needs or respecting your boundaries is a form of self-sabotage. You're not letting go because they don't matter. You're letting go because you matter. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself compromising your values, your boundaries, or your sense of self for the sake of someone else? How often do we hold on to relationships or connections out of fear? Fear of being alone, fear of not finding someone else, or even fear of accepting that things aren't working. But here's the liberating truth. When you let go of what no longer serves you, you create space for something better, something healthier, and something that truly aligns with who you are. Letting go is freedom because it allows you to reclaim your life. It allows you to step out of the emotional entanglement that's been draining your energy and holding you back. It's a statement of self-respect, a decision that says, I'm worth more than this. I deserve peace, respect, and love that is unconditional and reciprocated. But how do you know when it's time to let go? The answer lies in recognizing when the relationship or emotional attachment has crossed the line from growth to stagnation. It's when you realize that you've been investing time, energy, and emotions into something that's not moving forward, something that's been causing you pain and holding you in a cycle of disappointment. Ask yourself, what am I really holding on to? Is it a hope that someone will change? Is it the idea of what could be rather than what actually is? Or is it simply the fear of being alone, of facing the uncertainty of the future without this person by your side? These questions are crucial because they help you confront the truth about the attachment. Once you recognize what you're truly holding on to, you can make the decision to let go with clarity and confidence. The Stoics taught us that we cannot control other people's actions, but we can control how we respond. This is where letting go comes into play. It's not about controlling the other person or forcing them to change. It's about taking control of your own life and your own peace. You are the one who has the power to decide what deserves a place in your emotional space. When you choose to let go, you choose freedom. You choose to stop fighting for something that isn't aligned with your highest good. You choose to stop investing your emotional energy in a situation that's draining and begin to invest that energy back into yourself and your future. Letting go is also a crucial part of emotional healing. It's not just about releasing the other person. It's about releasing the pain, the confusion, and the emotional attachment that has been clouding your judgment. It's about accepting that things didn't work out, but that doesn't mean you're any less worthy of love or happiness. This is where you can start building your emotional resilience. Have you ever felt like you were holding on so tightly that you were suffocating yourself in the process? When you let go, you make room for new experiences, new opportunities, and new connections. Letting go is not about erasing the past or pretending like the relationship never mattered. It's about acknowledging that it had its place in your life and that it's now time to move forward. In doing so, you're allowing yourself to grow and evolve. One of the greatest gifts you give yourself when you let go is the ability to heal and grow independently. Often, emotional attachment comes with a deep sense of dependence, whether it's emotional, mental, or even financial. We can become so intertwined with another person's life and emotions that we forget how to be independent. Letting go gives you the opportunity to rediscover your own autonomy. You begin to realize that you don't need someone else to validate your worth or make you feel complete. Your worth is intrinsic, and once you let go, you can rebuild a life that reflects your true self and desires. Think about what letting go can open up for you. Have you ever stopped to consider what's on the other side of emotional detachment? What could you create, build, or experience if you allowed yourself to let go of the things that no longer serve you? The beauty of emotional detachment is that it gives you the opportunity to create a life that's more aligned with who you are, free from the expectations or emotional entanglements that have held you back. It's not about burning bridges or cutting people out of your life out of anger. It's about recognizing when it's time to walk away for your own well-being. Letting go allows you to prioritize your own peace and well-being over the fear of being alone, over the fear of what others might think, and over the fear of uncertainty. It's about choosing to live your life according to your own standards and values. The more you embrace the freedom of letting go, the more you realize that the things you were afraid to lose were never truly serving you. They may have once been important, but as you move forward, you realize that you were holding on to something that no longer fits the vision of the person you are becoming. You are allowed to outgrow relationships, situations, and people that no longer align with your growth and happiness. And here's the most important part. Letting go is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of strength, clarity, and growth. It's about choosing yourself, and that's always a victory. Like and comment number 1 if you're enjoying this video and feel inspired to embrace the freedom of letting go. Don't forget to subscribe for more content that empowers you to reclaim your peace, let go of what no longer serves you, and move forward with confidence. Remember, the freedom you seek is within your grasp. Sometimes all it takes is the courage to let go and trust that something better awaits you. Emotional detachment is undoubtedly one of the most challenging but transformative processes you can go through. When you allow yourself to fully experience the journey of letting go, setting boundaries, facing the pain, and ultimately reconnecting with your true self, you begin to take back the power that was once given to someone else. It's important to realize that emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop loving or caring for the person you were once attached to. It simply means that you're no longer allowing them to dictate your emotional state or your sense of self-worth. The truth is, you are the architect of your own life, and this journey is all about reclaiming that control. As you work through each of the 6 steps, you will start to see how your emotional attachments have shaped your behavior, your choices, and your sense of self. But this realization isn't about blame or regret. It's about acknowledging your patterns and deciding to make a change that aligns with your own values and needs. The first step in this journey, recognizing the reality of a situation, is an essential piece of emotional detachment. Often we fall into the trap of creating a fantasy about a person or a relationship. We see what we want to see, not what is truly there. Once you've made the conscious decision to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be, you gain the clarity needed to begin the process of detachment. You start to take off the rose-colored glasses and acknowledge that the situation isn't healthy for you, regardless of how much you wish it could be different. This reality check is the foundation upon which you build the strength to move forward. Setting clear boundaries comes next, one of the most empowering steps in emotional detachment. Boundaries are not about controlling or punishing the other person. They are about ensuring your emotional well-being. Boundaries allow you to protect your time, your energy, and your heart. They are a reflection of your self-respect. And when you begin to set and maintain healthy boundaries, you'll find that the emotional weight you've been carrying starts to lift. The people who truly value you will respect your boundaries, and those who do not will gradually fade away. And that's okay. Letting go of people who don't value your boundaries is a step toward healing. One of the hardest things about emotional detachment is facing the pain that comes with it. The process of grieving and accepting the loss is not easy, but it is essential. Grief is not something to be avoided or suppressed. It's a natural part of the healing process. Allow yourself the time and space to feel your emotions, but don't let them define you. By embracing the pain, you give yourself permission to heal. It's only by going through the grief and accepting the pain that you'll find the strength to truly move on and embrace your future. Focusing on self-care is another crucial element in this process. You cannot heal if you continue to neglect yourself. You cannot move forward if you're not nurturing your body, mind, and spirit. Emotional detachment is about rediscovering who you are outside of the attachment. It's about coming back to yourself, reconnecting with your passions, your dreams, and your sense of purpose. The more you focus on taking care of yourself, the easier it becomes to let go of what no longer serves you. The more you invest in your own well-being, the less power the attachment holds over you. And as you focus on yourself, you'll begin to realize that you don't need someone else to validate your worth. You are enough just as you are. Finally, embracing the freedom of letting go is the culmination of everything you've been working toward. Letting go is not about abandoning the other person or burning bridges. It's about choosing yourself. It's about acknowledging that you deserve peace, respect, and love, and that you can create a life that aligns with your values and aspirations. Letting go is the ultimate act of self-love, because it is a declaration that your emotional well-being is more important than holding on to something that no longer supports your growth. When you let go, you create space for new opportunities, new relationships, and a healthier future. Throughout this process, it's crucial to remind yourself that emotional detachment is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength, clarity, and wisdom. It's not about giving up on someone or walking away out of anger. It's about choosing to prioritize your own well-being and peace over the fear of letting go. It's about taking responsibility for your own healing and recognizing that the only person who can truly heal you is you. The journey of emotional detachment is not linear, and it doesn't happen overnight. There will be moments of doubt, moments of weakness, and moments when you question whether you made the right decision. But in those moments, remind yourself that you are doing what's best for you. The pain you're feeling now will eventually fade, and in its place, you will find a deeper sense of peace, clarity, and self-respect. You will begin to build a life that reflects your true values, free from the emotional burdens of past attachments. It's important to recognize that emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop loving or caring about someone. It simply means that you are no longer allowing them to control your emotions or your future. You are choosing to release the attachment and take responsibility for your own emotional state. This decision will not only help you heal, but will also empower you to create a future where you are no longer tied to unhealthy relationships or attachments. You are worthy of love that is healthy, respectful, and reciprocal. You are worthy of relationships that nourish your soul and support your growth. Emotional detachment is the first step toward building those kinds of relationships with yourself and others. By releasing the emotional baggage, setting boundaries, accepting the pain, and focusing on self-care, you are creating space for the life you truly deserve. In conclusion, emotional detachment is a powerful tool for reclaiming your life, your peace, and your emotional freedom. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Each step of the process brings you closer to a healthier, happier version of yourself, one who is no longer bound by unhealthy attachments, but is free to pursue the life you truly deserve. Remember, the journey of emotional detachment is not about cutting off love or connection. It's about choosing to love yourself enough to let go of what's holding you back. You are stronger than you think, and by embracing the process, you'll unlock the freedom to create a life filled with peace, joy, and authentic connections. So take the first step today. Choose yourself. Set those boundaries, embrace the pain, and let go. Your future self will thank you for it.